Hello, I hope you're having a really great day. This is one of my installments of my book reviews. So on this episode, I guess you can say, my book review, okay, is about this book called Children of Blood and Bones. To be honest, the first thing I love about this book is how deep the name is. Like, I feel like the name is a bit unnecessarily deep. And that was one of the main reasons why I decided to buy the book, because I was like, the name is called Children of Blood and Bones. It's like, it has like I don't know, but it's really nice. The name of the book is really nice. So rather than giving a whole synopsis about this book, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snippet about what the book is about, and then talk about like some of my favorite characters in the book. To be honest, there's only like 4 to choose from anyway, so okay. But anyway, this book is about a group of people who have the ability to do magic in a certain land, right? And they are under the leadership or rulership, is that a word? Leadership, yeah. Leadership of a king who absolutely hates magic, hates the people that do magic, hates what they stand for, hates everything about them, and he is going to like extreme lengths to make sure that he makes their life as difficult as possible, basically. There's lots of like raids. He does like lots of raids of the villages, the people that can do magic, and in one of those instances, the book that the main girl here, Zelie, is based on, her mother got killed in one of those raids, which is quite sad actually. But yeah, so the book goes through her family, which consists of her brother, who's called Tizine, and her dad. I can't remember the name of the dad, but her dad, and then a woman who's kind of like raising them, who's called Mamaba. It goes through basically them, but focusing on Millie, the girl, and her brother, the journey to actually getting back their magic, basically, because they're currently living in a time when the ability to perform magic has been taken away from them. So they're going on this journey to try and do all the incantation and all of the bubu to get their magic back, okay? And then he also goes around the troubles that they face with this king. This king has 2 kids as well. It's quite interesting because the girl has a brother, and then the king has a daughter and a son as well. So it goes through like kind of like also shows a picture of the king, especially the king's children, and the journey and that they go through as well in this same process, and they kind of get, those 2 journeys get kind of connected at some point in the book. The king's son, who is called Inan, is a bit of a daddy's boy, and he's absolutely one of those little kids who just wants to please their parents, and he's doing absolutely everything to gain his dad's love, which he never actually does. Sad. But he's doing everything to gain his dad's love, and he's going all these, doing all these killings and all these raids for his dad. And then at some point he actually kind of goes through like an interesting part where it actually ends to be that maybe he actually might be one of those things that his dad hates the most, which is people who can do magic, which I thought was quite interesting as well. But then the book is actually really started for me with the king's daughter, who had a friend who was one of those magic, they called magic people that could do magic. Interesting. But they're called magic people. And the king's daughter had a friend that was a magic person, and she had like some magic, she could do some magic. And the king's daughter, who is called Amari, she's had this girl as a friend since they were very little, and she was like her dearest friend and everything. And basically the girl got killed because of her magic, and so the king's daughter now took this scroll that this girl had, was protecting, and was basically trying to find anyone that could help or could know what to do with the scroll. She then stumbled upon Zelie, who's the girl obviously who her mother has been killed, who kind of like an interesting meet, who finds out that this scroll is one of the 3 artifacts that they need to bring magic back into the land. And so, like I said, both families get kind of connected, and it goes through the journey, because this Amari girl now joins forces with Zelie, and they go through everything to try and bring the magic back. At some point, obviously the king's son comes after his sister, comes after the girl who's trying to bring magic back. It's quite interesting because they fell in love, and they also find out that the king's son actually has magic and has the ability to do magic, which is quite interesting. In the end, it's quite interesting to see how everything plays out, and how like sometimes like people can get really like in the wrong side of life. I think regardless of how you think you can change people, sometimes people are just really what they are. So that was quite interesting. So apart my favorite about the characters in the book, I really like Amari, the king's daughter. She reminds me a lot of Sansa Stark in Game of Thrones. If you watch Game of Thrones, she reminds me of Sansa Stark, and she's like at the start of the book this really fragile princess who absolutely knows nothing about anything. But it's quite interesting when they started like to go into her story and like how her brother actually like sliced her back, like her spine, when they were growing up, because like I said, her brother was doing absolutely everything to get his dad's love, and the dad was always pushing both of them to fight and train, because they have to be like these super people that can absolutely like stand everything in battle. And on one of those occasions, like the sister, I think she was losing the fight, and the dad was like strike, and he struck his own sister and split her skin in the back of her, basically in her back. I don't think he got to her spine, because if he did she wouldn't be able to walk or be alive anyway. But she was fine, and she just had a massive scar that was going through her back. But that was quite like a sad introduction into her person and her story, and like I said, she's just really fragile girl. But then as the book like progresses, you can see how she earns and becomes like, I think that she was called a lioness, which I thought was like a really good word. Like she just became like this really fierce girl, and she doubted herself so much, but she had so much power, even more than she thought she could. Two very big instances was when they were in a fight, part of this journey to try and get the magic back. One of the stones that they needed to get the magic back was being used in like a gladiator type of thing, and so they had to become one of the gladiators to actually get the stone back. And in one instance where she had almost Zelia, who she was with now and helping, if you remember, was almost being killed, but she was the one who struck down someone that was just about to kill Zelia. And everyone like in the book was quite surprised, because she's like a very fragile person, and then even in the end of the book she ends up being the person who kills her dad. So it's like she kind of showed, her character showed like so much growth through the book, which I absolutely love. Zelia to me was a bit of a waste man, I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, girl, what is you doing? To be honest, I think I really liked her relationship with the king's son. So like I said, you know, the king's son develops magic, and he was coming after Zelia, so this girl who's lost her mom, also his sister, because he thought his sister was kidnapped, so he was trying to rescue his sister, and at the same time obviously get rid of this girl who would now kidnap his sister and who's trying to bring magic back. Okay, but interestingly enough, they get into a point where all four people meet, so Zelia and her brother Tizine, and then as well as Amari, who was with them, and then the king's son coming obviously to try and get his sister back and kill these other two people. They meet, and then Tizine and Amari get kidnapped, so Zelia and the king's son have no choice than to work together to obviously get their siblings back. It's really interesting because Zelia had to go through a point where she's like, okay, this guy who's partially responsible for killing my mother, I now have to join forces with you to try and get these people back, but we're going to do it anyway. But it's quite interesting because like I said, the king's son has magic, and one of his magical abilities is to read people's minds. And seeing Zelia in front of him, he could read her mind and see the pain that she was actually going through, and the pain, like he could actually feel her pain, which is quite weird. And so they get like into like a love connection, which I thought was quite interesting. Her brother, Zelia's brother, was quite disappointed. He was like, nope, I'm not here for this or anything. But what's something that was really interesting is that even though they now have this love interest and they're now in love with each other, the king's son is still a fool. I was like, I was rooting for you. You know, he pledged his trust to, or his love to Zelia, and was like, we're going to try and get magic back together. I'm going to try and convince my dad. But he was a waste man. He was a complete and utter waste man, okay? Because his dad found this place where they were staying, and his dad invaded the place. In the process, some of his dad's men get killed like massively by magic, and then he starts to have like a change of heart. Or maybe magic is bad, maybe we should not bring it back. And Zelia gets captured by the king, and the king absolutely drew like the word maggots into her back. Maggots was like a slur. Would you call that a slur? Basically a bad word that they were using to refer to people who can do magic. And it wasn't quite sad because despite everything that Zelia went through, the bastard boy Inan still was just trying to please his dad, and just did so many stupid things that led to his destruction. Because in the end, spoiler alert, his dad killed him when the dad realized that he had magic, because he used his magic right before his dad's very eyes. So I was like, you knew this was coming. What were you thinking before? But yeah, that was interesting. I felt like Tizine, his emotions were not really like explained in the book, because his mom also died. it wasn't a weird reason. Like, I don't think they actually talked about how he felt, whereas with Zilly, I feel like they dragged how much she missed her mom and how much she was really sad. Yes, obviously death of a loved one is like the saddest thing ever, but I feel like, you know, they kept going on and about it for like quite a lot of chapters, and I thought that was long. But yeah, I think that's almost everybody. I think one word actually that's really stuck to me was and obviously now being able to perform magic. And there's always a word that I've always known, is that be careful who you really hate, because you just might become them. I think that was like really the case for him, because he hated these guys so much. In the end, he now became one of them, which was quite sad. And he obviously had to go through that point where he was like trying to suppress his magic and accept who he actually really is and all that kind of stuff. So that was really interesting. The book is set in Lagos. Have I said that already? Around Lagos, Lagos State, like Sha Yoruba land, Tigoti, Badon, Sokoto, all of those kind of places. Well, not really Yoruba land, because Sokoto is a bit Hausa, isn't it? I don't know my Nigerian geography anymore, but it's kind of like around that kind of area. If you know Ibadan, Lagos, Sokoto, and all that kind of like around that belt. And then another thing I really love about this book is how it paints magic in a good light. Well, not really good lights, but it just shows like just an everyday life with magic and what that entails. Because I feel like African magic is never really, or African traditional religion in a way, is never really like shown in the light way. You only just see it in Nollywood movies like juju. All of them is not juju, you know, there's like actual just real. I don't even know if I believe it's real or not, but I just like the fact that it talked about like African religion, African magic in a good way, and talking about like the mother, the sun, not the month, the queen mother or like earth mother, some of that kind of stuff. Basically like about like basically the gods and all that kind of stuff, and skies. And it was just really good to see that in a positive way, I'm not gonna lie, where someone is not trying to kill you for, you know, being successful in life. So that was quite good. And I also really love the fact that they had like tiny little words of like, trying to see if I can find any of like Yoruba incantations. Yeah, but she has to do like some incantations obviously, which would be like a spell to actually get something to work. And it was just really interesting. I absolutely loved seeing that. That was one of my best parts about the book, because we don't get to see this enough about like traditional like Nigerian religions and stuff like that obviously existed back in the day a lot more than it is now. So I thought this was really good. And obviously one of the biggest reasons why I love the book is because it is by a Nigerian. Okay, her name is Tomi Adeyemi, and it is a New York Times bestseller. New York Times bestseller. You know what I'm trying to say. So it's a really good book. And I would recommend this book. I would give it like maybe like a 6.5. Is that bad? I don't know, because I am really like stringent on marks, so I'll give it like a 6.5 to a 7. Actually, the first part of the book I'll give a 4, and the second half maybe like an 8, because like the second half, like I said, is where it got really interesting and really relevant. So yeah, but this is it. I hope you love this book review, and yes, I will see you in my next one. Bye.